Hi.
Welcome in, everybody.
Hi. Is this thing on?
We are live.
We are live?
We're live.
Oh my gosh. I was
We
hoping,
are.
hoping for Memorex.
We are. We are a live.
I was hoping for Memorex.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in, Cannibal,
Hello.
Oso, Nicholas, Law Dog. Welcome in, everybody.
Happy
Rattlecan.
Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. And we are ready to get this party started. Woot woot.
If you guys are tuning in, if you watched us last week, we finished up on the crazy dry brushing of the shoulder, and now we're here. And Jason's going to blow our minds with some non-metallic gold magic
Need
today.
some orange oxide. I need some dark purple. I gotta have some paints. Ding. And I don't know that those are the sounds that those actually make, but we're going to go with that because I am not a paid Foley artist at this point. I just paint the stuff. Hope everybody had good luck with the Adepticon event roulette wheel. Oh, was it crazy?
Oh.
I did not hear anything, but I was closed off to that whole channel of communication this weekend, just around the house.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Yeah, I wasn't sure about the sign.
So this morning there were only 9 spots left for my class, which means that 15 or 16 sold, I think.
It's getting real.
So
it's getting mighty real.
If you want to come hang out with me, you better act fast.
Yeah, quick.
Time for that is going away.
T. Schmid, Panic Bomb, Flapjack.
Oh, it took you like 10 minutes to get into the registration.
Oh.
Holy cow. All right.
Wow.
So some itches there. Going to start with just where we picked up, or where we left off the other day, where I'm just going to kind of throw some purple shadows on areas where we're going to be painting the gold.
Yeah, if you guys haven't signed up yet, definitely check that site out. Oh, Flapjack got a spot. Nice.
I'm still kind of surprised they conned me into doing a class.
I
was typing it out on my Facebook page this morning. I was like, how did they do that?
Wait a minute.
They get me to
how are you you should be asking that
like,
question.
Why do I get...
Wait a minute.
Why do I have to do a class? There was a time not too long ago where I would have said you would be lying. You thought you were going to take a class from me at Adepticon. That would have been one of those never again statements from me.
Mo, how you doing?
Dallas from AMG called up and said, hey, crazy question.
It's time.
You want to do a class with atomic mass? You can choose to do whatever you want, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. How can I refuse? They offered me cheesesteak sandwiches.
Oh, here's a question from Colonel. Jason, question. Painting a gown using royal purple. Would you mix white with purple for a highlight or use something else? Same question for a shade.
So you could use white and black. The question I always pose back to you is with royal purple, you're dealing with something that tends to be a little bit of a warmer purple. It has some really nice, reddish tones to it. Do you want to lean into that? Because then you could use things like mixing in magenta. And then mixing in like dark purple to it, or Payne's gray to shade it, kind of a thing. So I would start there if I were doing royal purple on a dress or any type of clothing. That's what I would start with. I would do probably Payne's gray, dark blue, something like that into the shadow color as a mix. And then something like magenta or even pink, pale pink, something that keeps a little bit more of the red going for the highlight. Does that make sense? That would be my preference, so to speak.
Welcome in, everybody. We're just hopping into some non-metallic gold right now. If you have any questions, feel free to tag Monument so that I see them. I can pitch them up. Oh, Mo's asking, what's your shirt size? Inquiring minds need to know.
Or a 2X. But what are you sending me?
Uh-oh, the information's already out.
Should have asked first. Yep. Dang it. Dang it. Now what am I going to get?
Zazan, Awkwardish, welcome in.
Hello, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. We are back at it. Right where we almost like we never left, actually.
Oh, we haven't.
Oh, we were here all weekend?
No, mentally.
Oh, mentally we were here.
Mentally we were here.
Okay.
No, mentally we weren't.
I don't think that's real. I was definitely not mentally here. I was blowing stuff up.
We were.
Playing with the dogs, blowing stuff up. That's my weekends.
That's the dream. Big Sniper's asking, speaking of apparel, will you bring hats back to the online store?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm working with some vendors right now on snapbacks to get the kind of snap. The vendor we used before stopped doing the snapbacks that we used and went to a cheaper one that doesn't fit big cans, big heads. And I am not a fan of that, considering that my hat size is like a 7 7/8 or an 8 or something silly like that. So
Mo said naked ladies on it. What else would I send?
That's gonna go over real well. T-shirt stolen by Jen. Although she can't wear a 2X, it's like a dress for her, so that won't be the case.
All right, Lumberjack's got one. When picking out highlights on metal, that has a bunch of surfaces. Where do you decide to put your highest point? I know for cube cylinders and other regular shapes, I just run into trouble on odd shapes, like embossed dragon armor, embossed dragon on armor.
Where do you pick out where to put the highlights?
Yeah, where do you decide to put your I'm rereading the question. Where do you decide to put your highest point? Highlights on metal that has a bunch of surfaces.
Non-metallic, I'm assuming, Tim?
Lumberjack, if that's what you're talking about.
So
I think so.
This is that conversation where we get into talking about breaking the model down into its individual components, especially like on the lion here, or the legally distinct tiger, El Anthony's shoulder plate, right? This is going to have a lot of different little shapes I have to consider, right? There's a lot of these elliptical shapes, lines, that are like tight planes that I have to paint. Some cylinders, some spherical looking stuff. So I'll look at like this cheek as the part of a sphere that it is, and I'll highlight it. Then I'll look at the pieces next to it and figure out how do they interplay with that sphere, also how they interplay with the light in the environment for their shape. And so much like what we did here, where we have a flat plane, right, leading into a bunch of cylinders, into a compound shape that is somewhat cylindrical with some planars on it, and then a flat, more weird cylindrical shape on the elbow, back into a cylinder, into a sphere on the shoulder, right? And so I'll look and see how each one of those, the cylinders are easy. They just have kind of a lit, highlight that runs along them like this. But then they run into this plane. Well, the plane's going to have light hitting it from the same angle, so it still has the same brightness along the edge, but now it has edges brought into it, right? Like squared off bent panel edges. So I can't just do the shine all the way down the length of it. That's not how a panel highlights. So I did it in a slight fade from dark to light to match the lighting, and then did the edging on it, right? So that it fits in with everything else that's in that part of the scene. Then back to cylinders on the fingers. So you're looking at every piece of it as its own individual entity, and then looking at it how it's juxtaposed next to all of the other ones, and make sure that the light that's hitting one is also hitting the next piece next to it in a similar manner, although that shape might show that reflection in a different, painted shape. Right? If I have a sphere next to a cylinder, the cylinder is going to have a line of highlight at its peak level, and then the sphere is going to have a radial of light, but they need to both look like they would be in line with the light source. That makes sense? So you'll see a lot of that come to life on some of this stuff, like the emboss on the gorget and the shoulder plate.
Welcome in everybody that's just tuning in. Blood Walrus, Wad. Welcome, welcome.
And doing what I'm doing right now, which is kind of, finding my shadow color, then painting up through to my midtones, is helping me to find all of that shape of the model. Right now I don't have to worry about the highlight too much. I'm just painting the base layer, the shadow color, doing some basically underpainting like we did for the flesh. I'm just doing it for the metallics. But in doing this, I'm also looking with each part that I'm putting paint on to kind of feel the structure of the model out and say, okay, what am I going to do for highlights when I get to this area? How am I going to put highlights along this little lion-esque face here?
Really quick, Jason, what are you going over in Adepticon again? What was that one hero?
So I'm doing Crimson Dynamo from Marvel Crisis Protocol. And we're going to be showing you how to paint red with 3 colors. The goal is layering like I do, but using 3 colors to make it seem like you have 5. And then we'll probably have a highlight color on tap as well. But going through getting some really good depth in a very simplified manner on a red armor.
Lumberjack was saying, I can send you what I painted recently. Brought this question to mind about the highlighting. I don't think it's bad, but I was curious if I did the highlight placement correctly.
Well, correctly is only going to be as good as your light that you've chosen in your scene. So that just needs to match the way everything is highlighted in the composition. Once you've chosen that, then it's about making it consistent piece to piece on the model. And remember that each piece of metal also becomes its own light source to some extent, right? If you have a bright shine on a piece of metal that you've chosen to do as like a polished piece of armor, everything around it is going to get another light source on it. Not just the one in the environment, like the sun and the sky lighting it up. They're all then going to create shine on each other. So you have to be, cognizant of that as you are sketching in your values around the project. So we have like some secondary reflection from the ground that's making shine here. The reflection on the inside of the arm from the chest plate or vice versa is, creating a shine there. So you have to think about how when light hits everything, how to reflect back. Once we get the gold done, the gold will have to have some color reflecting into the silver.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right? So you have to be taking all that into consideration, and the more complex and realistic you want to make it, the more you got to look at all those little nuances as you go. If you're just looking for the base level, paint an army, paint a guy, get some non-metallic done, then you can just literally pick a light source direction, make sure everything adheres to that light source direction, you're good to go. It gets more and more difficult the more you want to blow people's minds with how much it looks like metallic when it's not. People be like, how did you get that plastic model to look like that? And the more you want to do that, the more you've got to look at all those things that the human brain registers but might not know You might be talking to somebody who doesn't have the words to discuss light reflection and refraction, but they sure know what it looks like. They may not have the vocabulary to tell you, but if you show them something that's wrong, they'll tell you it doesn't look right, and won't necessarily have to know why it doesn't look right. That's the biggest thing we're trying to overcome as painters all the time, is faking light in a way that fools the common eye into thinking that, we've created a world that doesn't really exist.
Here we go. Hey guys, last week lost my power here. Glad to be safe and okay. Oh yeah, because the California fires. Definitely glad you're
Sorry
okay.
to hear that.
Yeah, it is. It's tragic over there. Definitely feeling for all those people affected by it.
100%.
Now here's a good question. What was the most amount of time you've put into painting a mini, Jason? Off the top of your head.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't even know how to tell you that.
That's a hard question.
I've put hundreds of hours into some minis, but it's not really something I think about. I don't keep track.
Yeah.
I just know that I've taken months to finish some minis, But that wasn't like full-time working on them. Here on stream, we've taken a month worth of streams, but I don't ever really paint the whole time. A lot of times I stop and, do explanations.
Yep.
Tell a bad joke.
That's true.
Have fun with chat. So I always kind of say that my painting that happens here on stream takes about 4 times as long as it would in the real world because of the interaction with chat.
Yep.
But beyond that, like if I'm painting in a vacuum, just doing a project for myself, I've spent hundreds of hours on some things.
When you're really deep
dioramas, especially, I've spent, good God,
those take a lot of
tremendous amount of fabrication time to create the dang pieces and all of that stuff. But for traditional just painting minis, I would say that something like this we might get done in, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks worth of streams at 2 hours a day. So 30-40 hours worth of painting or something like that. We're moving pretty quick on him.
Erie, thank you so much for the sub. Subscribe with Prime. Welcome in, everybody. If you're just tuning in, we are picking up with some non-metallic metal gold. We've been working on this, or Jason has, basically at the start of last week, which seems like an eon ago. But ever since January 6th, you can see the full progression of this. If you go back, we started with the face, then we went into the hair, then we went to black metal, and now we're picking up with the gold. Make sure you tag Monument so I see your questions in chat too as they come up.
Little finger smudging there at the end.
Q has a question. When underpainting non-metallic metal, is it essential? Is it essentially brown/orange under gold and blue/gray under steel?
Can be. That's a good beginning way to look at it, and then build off of that. You'll notice here I'm using greens and purples under the gold as well to give it some other interesting depth. But yeah, the easy way to think about it is blues, grays for your white metals, browns, oranges for your yellow metals like gold and brass and bronze and things like that. You will start to then add other colors into both of those. I like dark purple and purple bases for both white and yellow metals. It's just such a great color. Works with anything. But oranges can work great for steels if you're trying to make the metal look more rusty. Same with browns. right? You'll start to learn that the color of the underpaint lends a lot to the overall feel of the environment that the piece is in. You know, the more browns and oranges I use, the dirtier and rustier it'll all feel.
Prisoner, thank you so much for that resub. Subscribe for 4 months. Thank you so much.
Blues will tend to make things feel cleaner and more polished, which doesn't really work for golds. But for white metals, for sure.
Derpstick is asking, if you were doing the armor in true metallic metal, what metallics would you use for the darker metal?
Probably like dark silver mixed with black transparent, something like that.
You said dark silver with black transparent?
Dark silver with black transparent is a great way to get a black metal.
Ooh, now I really want to try that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you know, you can go heavy with the black transparent at first, and then use less and less as you start, you know, going towards your midtones, and then switch over to some silver, or dark silver by itself is probably the better way to do that. But yeah, that's probably the best way to go about it.
Nice. Lumberjack Tim resubbed.
Thank you, Tim. Good to see you.
28 months.
Haven't seen Tim much.
Wow.
He's been conversing with me on the
Lumberjack
Discord
Tim.
chat. Long time.
Needed emojis, yeah.
Long time listener, first time caller. Not true. Tim's been in chat for a long time.
Lumberjack Tim, thank you so much.
Jen can't be with us today. She's off doing fulfillment stuff, trying to get orders out the door. Our whole fulfillment team has been hit by the plague, it feels like.
Yeah, a lot going on over there, too.
So nothing I'm doing here is really hard. It's literally just, you know, poking some purple into the shadow stuff and then going over it with orange after having done the green. So not blending a whole lot, not worrying about that.
T. Schmidt's asking, when do you choose either non-metallic metal over true metallic metal over the other, and why?
Well, you've been here long enough to know that, or if you've been here long enough, which T. Schmidt definitely has,
yep,
you know that for me, I don't buy into the true metallic part of that conversation. Metallic paints are one way to paint metallic, and paints that do not have metallic are another way to paint it. I don't want people getting hung up on the word true metallic, because true metal doesn't look like metallic paint. As a matter of fact, to me, metallic paint looks less like metal because it's made up of tiny particles of reflective metal or mica flake. And so when you paint it on, it looks like a bass boat sometimes. Ours is really good. There are very good metallics out there that look smooth when you apply them, and then they give you a better reflection in that shine. So I understand why we use that term. But typically, for me, it's speed of painting, 100% speed of painting. When I want to get models done quicker, I use the metallic paints, right? When I want to spend more time and have them look better for my painting style, then I will switch over and do what I'm doing now, which is using, you know, non-reflective paints to do that style. And, you know, the reason that I teach and talk that way is because the big key to painting in general, like we said earlier, or alluded to earlier, is to take the viewer, whoever that viewer is, whether it's just you looking at your army or your best friends or all the people at the competition that are judging you or whatever. The big thing is to make sure that you're creating a story in color, right? And some of that has to do with recreating the light in the correct way, the color and the material of the model in the correct way. All of these things are talents that we have to learn in order to get people to believe, you know, in what we've shown them. And in order to do that, you need to be, as an artist, in control of the lighting in the scene. You need to be able to set the stage like a good photographer would, or Christopher here being a videographer. You know, whenever you shoot that film, you want that light to be exactly the way you need it to get the point across for the scene that you're trying to film, right, Chris?
Yep.
That's like the biggest thing you spend
absolutely.
all the time doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do that as a painter, you're placing these highlights right down the cylinder of the arm right there, right? No matter how I turn this model, those highlights always stay exactly on the cylinder of the arm where I put them. So if I turn this guy upside down, he's very dark. If I look at him from the top, he's much brighter. That's my photograph of this model. It's a three-dimensional photograph that we're painting. Metallic paints, when you paint them, as you rotate the model, the shine on the model moves. So the highlight goes to wherever the light in the room that you're looking at the model with. So you can't turn a metallic model upside down and have it have that dramatic difference, which means that you're kind of at the whims of the lighting in the room to determine how good your model looks at any given time. And so it might look spectacular on your painting desk, but at the time you move into like that big or convention hall where you're playing your game, your models will look a lot different because the lights are 50 feet away from the table. They're not reflecting the same way. Maybe your paints don't have the contrast they did on your painting desk. So I tend to think when you're going for really defined volumes and storytelling and painting that way, then non-metallic is the way to go. You know, when you think like all of the traditional masters in artwork painted in the non-metallic way because they didn't have metallic paints. It would have painted the stuff that way anyway. So, you know, when they did like gold leaf on the frames, that was one thing, but on the paintings themselves, they wouldn't have done that. So.
Camo's asking a unique question too. When using traditional metallic paints in a layer, could you do that with non-metallic paint jobs? Like, could you kind of, when you're doing a non-metallic paint job, and I'm thinking I'm identifying your question here, when you're doing a non-metallic paint job, is there any use cases for traditional metallic paints within non-metallic metal? Or is it so that, like what you just described, when you start putting metallic paint on there, we start getting light reflection? So it kind of eliminates the non-metallic metal.
Think of it as how reflective the paint you're using is. Metallic paints happen to be some of the most highly reflective paints. You can think of like super gloss paints being the same way. They reflect a lot of the light back at your eye. And so when you think about adding in metallic paints to a traditional non-metallic paint workup, I don't know that the two go together very well. I don't think it's impossible. I think you could probably create a style that was really unique doing that. Here, let me go grab a model that I've used some metallic paints on.
Chat, this is just me. You're alone with me. Jason is going to grab a quick mini. He'll be right back. Yeah, Camo, I think that's what I think I digested that question for you there. Or essentially. I'm back, everybody. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. I figured as much. I'm trying to also, you know, explaining it that way, yes, like the use cases is perfect. So
when I have a model where we've used metallic paints expressly, I say that. Now, you think about it, all of the surfaces on this guy are hard metal. It's just some of them are painted purple and white, right? And so the purple and white are done in what you would call a traditional painting style. There's no metallic paints used in the purple and white layering, but they are still metal, painted metal. So I've still done highlights and shine and edging on them. I haven't gone, you know, completely crazy with it because we were painting pretty quick. But, you know, I gave them hard surface edges, so it looks like it's made out of metal. But then on the raw metal exposed surfaces like the grills and the logos and things like that, I use metallic paints. Now, what I did here is I overemphasized by glazing non-metallic paints over the top of the metallics. So I get this side is very dark, this side is very bright. Even though the light in the room still moves with it, you'll still see the reflections change on the metallic paints. I've been able to control it with non-metallic paints to keep, you know, the dark side over here looking dark. Right? It will brighten up with the light a little bit. You'll see the light motioning around, right? And then the bright side looking much brighter by using brighter colored metallics, right? Some non-metallic paints to highlight them up, right? So you can still create a really good compound kind of use of metallic paints. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. you can get great results. You can get them very quickly. I still have my shine on the cylinder of all of these pieces the way that I want it. It just isn't quite as controllable as when I use non-metallic. When I paint something that is, has a bunch of compound shapes and non-metallic, like this guy, right? This kind of deep gold armor, the shine never changes on it. So when I go and look at this side, it's virtually no shine at all, right? And then when I look at it here, so I've painted this guy for this to be the money shot right here.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great job.
And as you turn it, you kind of feel the direction of the light never changes. The direction of light is always going to be over from this side. No matter if I'm looking here, right? You'd be like, there's almost no light from this side.
Yeah.
Right? And then here you've got all the light. So I have full control when painting this way. And this is the way that you're already used to painting most of your models. If you just consider that you're maybe not painting them as reflective as like gold metal or something, but you're already painting your models this way for standard armor colors and leather and everything else. And so it's just pushing that extra value into it to make it look reflective, like metals and plastics and shiny stuff, right? And so that's really the key. And that type of control is preferential for me. That's the way I enjoy painting. So most of my models will feel like that, even from, painting a Space Marine. I would prefer to paint all of my dudes with non-metallic. It just takes a long time because, you can do what we call wish.com non-metallic. You can paint it really quick. And for armies, typically that's what I'll do. But a lot of times I'll get lost in it, and I'll just, because I love the way it looks. And so I want to spend extra time. And so each model takes, an extra 5 hours over what it should. And then at that point in time, you never put armies on the table.
Right.
That is me. I never get completed armies, right? Because that's the way I like to paint.
So and Camel's asking again, would you use transparents? Sorry, let me go back. Would y'all's transparents act like a candy color finish when applied over metallics? Is it done with like just kind of
super cool?
They've done it with lacquer paints, but haven't tried it with acrylics.
Super cool. Yeah, our transparents, when you paint the metallic on first and then do the transparent over the top, usually like thinning it way down and using an airbrush is a great way to do this, and you'll get this amazing metallic sheen underneath. It's not going to have the depth of a real lacquered candy, because the thing with a lacquer, when we think about lacquer and candy coating, it usually is on larger surfaces. You have a bigger thickness of paint. And so what happens is that bigger thickness of paint has more light reflecting and refracting off of it. And so it gives you a weird, milky, almost wet look, right? Models don't have that surface area, and you're not painting the paint on that thick. So at small scale like this, you'll never achieve quite the same thing because the paint's not as thick. That's just a physics thing. And the light won't be able to penetrate as deeply into the paint because the paint's not, an 1/8 of an inch thick or 2 millimeters thick, and then reflect back out through that same paint. The surface of our paint is like microns thick. It's not anywhere near a millimeter thick worth of paint when you're done painting. So that's the only thing. A big, thick clear coat on a car makes wonders. It makes the car look bright, shiny, wet, and like you could reach into the paint the whole time. You're never going to get that on a miniature. Right? Because you're just not going to be able to pile that much paint on it without losing all of your detail and such. So, but the overall gist of it can look really, really similar. You get that metallic feel, you get a neat layer of color over the top, and you can do some fun stuff, especially with like, in the automobile, airplanes, things like that, where you have big, large, flat expanses. You can do some crazy things.
Yeah. Getting back to a couple of these questions. Ozo B is asking, from the business side, what factors are you looking at to support the continued investment in the stream? That has definitely been a subject, and not speaking for Jason here too, but kind of some of this new reformatting is that a little bit too, right?
Well, 100%.
Making sure we get a more digestible education out to you guys is a big one, right?
Well, we have, over the course of the last 9 years, we have provided more paint oriented training and programming in video form than anybody else on the planet. I guarantee it. Right?
Oh yeah, if you start adding up the actual hours
streamed of what I consider quality content. Obviously that's my ego talking, but I think that everybody has enjoyed us streaming for these last 9 years. We've created a tremendous amount of content, but we haven't cataloged it well. We've been really bad about that over the years. And so for us, I don't know if you'd call it commercial viability. I'm sure that has something to do with it, right? As a company, when we put 2 or 3 people in this room for 2 hours a day, that costs us a lot of money. And so we want to make sure that what we're, creating is beneficial for the community, because that's what our company is built on, is the community outreach, the ability to get people more comfortable with the hobby so that they enjoy painting more. It's less on here. I mean, yeah, we talk about our colors, but it's less about force feeding you pro acryl, and more about saying, hey, if you'd like to paint, we'll help you get there. And then hopefully you just remember that, who got you there, and you go give our paints a try someday when you can. So that's really it. That's the behind the curtains view. We love doing this. We would be painting no matter what.
Yep.
And so painting with you guys and gals is fantastic. We appreciate the opportunity to do so. And so when we go and think about the stream, we think about how can we make that better for, every party involved.
Ghost Hunter education builds confidence. Confidence leads to sales. More sales leads to continue modeling hobbies. That's one way to put it.
That's really, that's really what our hope is that people will remember those that support them and do all of this work alongside them, because our goal really is to have you have more fun painting. I don't care what paint you use. I would love to see you out at a show with you all excited to show me your latest project. That's what gets me pumped and makes me want to paint more models. And as a group together, we'll succeed in whatever way we define, success. So I'm a fan. Let's paint more stuff. So I don't know if that answers you, but that's the way.
No, I mean that's how. Yeah, that's from the tall level. It's what we're trying to do. Basically, just breaking down the barriers to get you doing your projects.
All right, there we go. It's a pretty good level of color on there.
If you guys are just tuning in, welcome. If you have any questions, be sure to tag us. I'll get to them here.
Now I have to make one of the most important decisions. I have to pick a yellow.
Oh, okay. So now, what are you doing now, Jason? You're heading into you're heading into yellow.
I got to pick where I want to go with the yellows over this orange base, right? So I'm a big fan of things that move into like yellow ochre, but I also have this really cool color from Flame On set called orange brown.
That's a great color.
And I think I'm going to do orange brown over the orange and play with it. I have not done this workup before, but I think we're going to play with that first. I think I want to keep it away. So normally, I brought that Space Marine out here, so that's good. When I'm painting fast, non-metallic gold, I started this guy with the same dark yellow-green that I used on here. But here I went with purples and orange. Here was just dark yellow green into yellow ochre and then into pale yellow mixed with the yellow ochre. That's it, right? So that's 3 colors that give you all the non-metallic on this guy. And it looks great at a small scale like this. It makes the gold look slightly tarnished, but still gives you the ability to pull off the metallic. I really love the way like this plate on his shoulder has turned out, right? It looks like a tarnished gold plate. So that's fantastic. At small scale, works great, gives me everything I need. At large scale, it starts to be a little bland because it exposes the fact that there's not a lot of color nuance to it. So when I go to larger things like bust or I have bigger surfaces to work with on even a small model, I'm going to want more color because I want to make it feel... Metal is one of those things that as you start putting it in an environment, colors you would never think start showing up in the metal because it could be in the grim dark nature of 40K, right, or 52K for Tiger L. Anthony here. I think we said it was 42K, but but it's 52K. In that world, in a blown out environment, you might get grays and reds from the sun being filtered through this blown out environment and all of that would never appear on gold and other things. So you have this way of being able to play with color, but the fact that it's there, gives you more depth, makes it more interesting, and so I like to play a lot, right? That's why I like purple on this, because we chose dark purple as a shadow for the normal armor color, so using the purple on the gold makes sense to me. So I think we're going to go in with some orange brown. It was a great color.
Was the orange, what was the green and orange again, just to recap for people?
Dark yellow green.
Dark yellow green.
And orange oxide in this case. Normally I use burnt orange, but I'm playing around with some orange oxide. And now we're going to go with orange brown, which is a great workup from the orange oxide. They feel like they're in the same world, right? You look at that. That's a really good combo.
Ooh.
And now, again, just with a bigger brush, I'm just going to start catching edges here. Not worried about blending, but I am going to be worried more about where the paint goes. Right? I don't want to get it too far into the shadows, so I'm going to be looking at painting the top surfaces first, where I know I'm going to have more of my gold coloring. So I'll overtake some areas entirely. Some of the orange I'll paint over most all of it. Right?
Oh, we're getting Rainer72 rating with a party of 11. Welcome in, Raiders.
What's going on, Rainer?
Welcome in. Doing some non-metallic gold right now.
On Antonio Le Tigre.
That's a great color.
Yeah, I think this was the right choice to start with. Yellow ochre would have been a little too yellow, I think.
Yeah, I'm starting to see it now. Like when you add that color, you kind of go from that okay, where's it going from here to okay, now I'm starting to
I can maybe see a plan.
Yep. I'm starting to
I don't know that
where...
you got to have been here for a long time to really think ahead on when I'm painting. A lot of people are always blown away by the fact that you started with this thing that looked like a clown suit. How did you make it look like a finished piece of work at the end? And the non-metallic that we're working up here is a little bit more believable, but still to go from purple, green, and orange up to gold is something that takes a suspension of disbelief for a little bit of your painting journey. You're going to have faith in yourself and the process in order to get there. But it really does work. As I run out of paint on the brush, I will start using it more as a glaze. One of the cool ways to utilize your paintbrush is that understanding it won't deliver as much paint as it runs out. Ta-da. And that you can use that to have a little bit more translucence off of the brush. So these broader areas where I know I'm not going to get big splooches of paint now that I'm lower in material on the brush, I could do some glazing without having to thin the paint down.
Campbell, that's funny. It's all about the ugly phase.
Yep. It really is. The confidence in the ugly phase is one of the things you will have to learn. And, that name sounds funny and people talk about it a lot, but it really is. Kenny always talks about the garbage fire that is the miniature for about half of the time you're painting it. Maybe 80% of the time it looks like a dumpster fire.
And then all of a sudden there's that one color or that one brush stroke that starts pulling it together to make your vision real. And this is a reality for everything and everyone who paints, period. Right? It's just the way it goes. Because in order to get all those nuanced colors and that feel of realism, if that's what you're going for, the only thing that is quick and instantaneous is like cartooning. Right? Where the pants are blue, so you paint blue pants. Boom, done. The shirt is yellow, so you paint the shirt yellow. Boom, done. Right? You're not doing a lot of shading, or if you are, it's like one shade color just to make sure there's a little bit of shadow to make it seem like the thing's three-dimensional. But when you're cartooning, you can go quick and you can get your define, and then your line work is what brings it to life. Right? That's in the 2D world. When you're already thrown into the 3D world, you already have volumes you have to deal with. The model casts its own shadows, so whatever colors you put on it are going to be directed by that shadow. So now you're starting to move shadow and light around the model to make it force to your will and be in control of it. And that's what we have to be looking for right now, right? Is saying, okay, I've got to be confident in the crappy look of the model during these certain stages. Non-metallic metal is one of those that really suffers from that because it doesn't look shiny at all until you put that last blast of contrast on there with your brightest color. And you just have to get used to that. I see a lot of people in my years that give up on their non-metallic metal when they're at the halfway point because it doesn't look right. And they're looking at the thing on Instagram that looks brilliant, and theirs doesn't look that way. And it's like, well, it would if you just hang tight for a second. Make that next crucial step to that next bright color, and all of a sudden, bang, the world comes to life. So never give up. It's always that course of steps in between that give the model its real life. Now here I just have to be careful not to overtake my shadow. So I got to leave my oranges, greens, and purples in the shadows and find a way to pull each brush stroke of this yellow, although it's orange-brown, out of the shadows. So I'll start in my dark spot, bring the brush up along, and then leave more color up here along the top of these folds in the design where the light would be hitting more, and then go back to just light edging
in the shadows here, because I will with metallics have a reflective edge on surfaces that are even going down into the shadows a lot of time, because that sharp edge will catch the light. But I just want to make sure I leave a lot of these oranges, greens, and purples on display in the midtones and shadows when I can, while still driving the yellow feel of a golden style metal around.
Here is.
And you're starting to see it.
Question from Derpstick: would the blue, yellow, and red from the Rogue hobby set be a good paint? Set to be good to paint an ultramarine in a classic style, the ones with the goblin green bases.
Oh, heck yeah. That ultramarine blue would be fantastic. You're still going to want a darker blue for shadows and stuff, but yeah, you're on the right track.
Super classic colors.
And so again, I'll just start by grabbing the edges of a lot of these shapes, because sometimes the edge is all you need when you get down towards the darker spots of a metallic shape. So I'll start with the edges and then work back into things that I know would catch more light, like this piece here. Top of this would catch a little bit more light. Right, maybe a little bit here. And a little bit here. This part is what I call sketching. You're trying to find your way around the model, trying to figure out what works for you. I'm still not at my bright colors, so I don't want to start being too punchy with my placement of highlights, but I am thinking about it. I am thinking about where the brighter colors are going to live and making sure that this color goes there. How was the stream over with Rainer? Mr. Condon, good friend of the channel, been around for a long time. As he and his lovely wife have got a neat ranch set up now, where they have like a great creative barn they've worked out, where she does her Lutharian's fiber arts stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Great, neat knitting, and she's gonna get mad at me because I just call everything knitting because I'm a pleb and don't know the difference. It's like schlebby. You know, she does crochet, but I call it knitting.
It's cool.
But yeah, great stuff, great people, doing great things in the hobby and various hobbies around their area in the Missouri, Kansas end of the world.
Rainer says, was a good stream. Work on some Necromunda hired guns and the headsmen specifically.
Nice.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for the raid. We really appreciate that.
It's the dulcet tones of Christopher in the background.
That's right. Chat, definitely send in those questions and tag me. I'll pitch them up to Jason. Yes, Shelby is definitely working today.
Our entire fulfillment team, well, those that are here, are busting hump. They have been skeleton crewed at the beginning of the year here due to illness and outages, people outages. So our fulfillment has been taking it hard. If you have an order in our system, we apologize profusely if it's taking longer to get it to you than it normally would. It feels like we never left the holidays with the way the order volume has been. So we are drastically trying to make new hires, get new people in to help out. That process is just never as quick as you want it to. We don't hire quickly. We take time to hire the right people to fit the culture, and sometimes that has its own.
Yeah, that's what happens. It just the holidays bring those little illnesses here and there. It's not fun.
Now I got to start thinking. I want to have more reflected shadow and darkness on this side, but I still have to find brightness too. So I'll spend more time with the edge highlighting on this side. So less thinning, and that way I'll get more punch from the color as I find those edges. Although I am painting with a number 6 brush with a lot of water in it, so everything's going to be fairly diluted when I get it to the model, just for safety.
If you're all tuning in, we've been working on this since last Monday. We will have a face, the workup face video will be dropping this evening.
That's awesome.
Yep. We was able to get that nicely edited for you guys. So
it's
that'll
super
be coming.
awesome, yeah. I had a good time watching it.
Then we worked on the face. Then we went into the hair for a little bit. Started working on the black armor. So the last VODs of last week, if you're wanting to see how the black armor was worked up, that is between the 7th and the 9th and the 10th. And now we're working on the gold. And that color, for everybody who's interested, is orange brown.
Orange brown, going over all of our crazy orange, purple, and green right now to do our golds. These colors look very warm and muddy right now. Muddy, probably not the right word, but, you know, warm and dirty, gritty, because of the oranges, the greens, the purples, all working together here. Believe it or not, the next couple of colors will make these kind of drift into obscurity. Because as we start going into bright into the spectrum on our non-metallics, all of these become kind of second fiddle. The bright colors will take over visually. And these colors will have to start fighting for their life to even be seen by the time we get done. So be deliberate as you underpaint for your non-metallics. Make sure you have enough of these visible. It'll take some practice on your part before you get to the point where you understand, like, what will survive a brighter color and what won't.
Jade, Chuck, welcome in.
Hey, guys.
Tech Elf, welcome in. Ooh, I'm using orange brown for rust. What would you highlight with that with for rust?
Orange brown for rust? Bright yellow ochre?
Ooh.
Probably. This is a great rusty color that I would use in place of yellow ochre. I think orange brown is a great replacement for yellow ochre, where you don't want quite as much yellow. You'd prefer the color to be just a little more leaning into that brown side of things. It's one of the...
That's actually, yeah, okay.
Right? Because it is a little orangier, hence the name, orange brown.
Yep.
But it will take the edge off of some things. And so rust, if you're doing like orange oxide into it, look at it right now. You know, this would be a great layer of rust on steel. Now, we wouldn't paint it the same way, but great colors. And then if you were going to highlight this, I think bright yellow ochre would be the place to go. You could use like golden brown as well. It may not get bright enough for you. It just depends on what you're trying to do, how you vision the end point for what you're painting. But again, just a very painterly application of paint here. It sounds funny to say that. It's like, duh, you're painting. Of course it's painterly. But by painterly, I mean just a little bit more wispy brushstroke. Not really as concerned with any blending or perfection of anything other than color placement. I just am trying to get the color to go where I want it to go right now.
Jade and Chuck, sounds like they'll be in the class. Is that correct?
Awesome.
Comments, it looks like it. Awkwardish too. Flapjack, I think, also said he was going to be in there.
Yeah, there were quite a few people on the Discord that were like, I got in. That's awesome. Look forward to it. It's going to be a fun class.
Zombie and Ghost Hunter are mentioning I should have swatches for every time there's a color that comes up, which effectively would be really, really good. I need to figure out. I've thought about that actually when he's using the color.
Chad, I'm going to let you know something. Chris will make it his life's work to do these things, so we want to keep him sane. So I'm going to say no. We'll just hold the paint up for you from time to time.
There it is.
Chris has got too much work to do already, and he will continue to say yes until
it's a great
he's on
idea,
his deathbed at the ripe young age of 32 that he is.
Well, here's the positive though. That will show up in the videos that we pull from stream. Those will have the swatches for sure, just like our methodology shorts. So those will be in there. But no, then I have like a massive sound switchboard of the colors.
I can't imagine.
Oh my gosh.
We used to do that, believe it or not. We had, back when we had a manageable amount of colors, we had on the stream a deal where I could press on the stream deck and it would slide in the colors.
Oh my gosh.
The problem that we ran into is that some colors occupied the same spot. And so if I was using them, I'd have to remember that they overlaid one another. It's just a pain in the butt.
Raid Silver Ruben.
90, going on, Ruben?
93 months seems like a lot. Yeah. Ruben,
you've been here forever, dude. So long that I think we put you to work. Ruben was our first employee, and he came from Stream, so that tells you a lot. First ever hire. Hired him from Stream. He lived in Arkansas, and he moved here.
Yep.
Crazy man. Family has been a great addition to the Monument family over the years. Ooh. Ruben is a tremendous part of what we do around here.
He is. Ruben, thank you. 93 months. That is a lot.
You know you don't have to subscribe to the stream anymore, Ruben. You literally work here.
Q is asking, are you thinking less toward the top of the shoulder to be more opaque, or are you just being a little more heavy-handed?
Both, but good presence of mind, right? I thin more down low here.
Yep.
And then I thin less as I want more opacity to the paint. And that isn't always just about where the paint is on the model. Sometimes that's, what I'm doing. If I'm catching an edge down low, then I might thin less. And then more as I'm doing an upper surface or something, or like this side surface, I want it to be a lot less opaque. But yeah, you nailed it. That's the thought. And sometimes it is just about being more heavy-handed and applying more paint to a specific area to get it to have more opacity too. Like up here was more of both. Less dilution and more pressure on the paintbrush to deliver more paint as I go. But I'm happy with that. I think that gives me a good start. That starts looking like where I want my shine to go.
Uh-huh.
It gives me a good amount of the purple, orange, and green showing through, even though they're becoming less visible.
Zaz is asking, how much reference do you look at before painting a model? Not much. I answered that for Jason because he said that in the past. I remember that.
Yeah, at this stage of the game, I rarely ever look at something. It doesn't mean that I don't see something on the internet that really catches me and says, "Oh, you know what? That would be really cool." Next time I paint, I will show people, it might jog something, and I'll be like, ooh, I'll show people how to do blue, using these shades of green as a shadow. Because I'll see something another painter paints out on the internet or something, or a cool reference picture, car or motorcycle or something I see on my feed someplace. But very rare, does it do anything more than just catch me and be like, oh, that's really rad the way those colors work. I'm going to try that. When I'm doing like this gold, I don't go look at anything at this point. I have enough experience under my belt to just say, I'm going to try X, Y, and Z on this one. That may be a new underpainting color like this one. I've been vocal about saying, here I would normally use this color, but right now I'd normally be using yellow ochre over burnt orange. And instead we use the orange oxide and now the orange brown.
Chris, those are the colors I just typed in. Dark purple, dark yellow green, orange oxide, and now orange brown for the non-metallic gold work up thus far.
And like we're talking about, this is the dumpster fire stage where nothing looks the way it will, but it's setting the groundwork for how we want it to look, if that makes sense. None of these colors will show as much at the end because the bright colors that we put on for all of our contrast and shine and that really pulls off the metallic feel will overtake them.
This is a great example, I was just thinking about it, of how the foundation is something that you don't see, obviously, but it is there, and you can't do it. Well, I shouldn't say you can't do it, but you can't do this without it. It's like that's the whole concept behind the foundation of it. When it all ties together, it's great.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that everything that we paint has got more than just the color it is that makes it delightful to look at, so to speak. When we look at black cars, it's very rare that a black car is all black in its visual presentation. It'll be the other colors that really bring it to life because black's a really dull color. And so giving it an underpinning of color like what we're doing here is really, like what Chris said, what drives it home. So think about it as, you never really think about and congratulate the foundation of your house, but it's the reason your house stands.
Yep.
Right? Is a good firm foundation. And the same is true of color. A good foundation of color makes everything that much better. Because it gives me so much more opportunity. And every paint stroke that I'm putting on the model, I'm making a decision. How much of the color on this specific piece, like think about it. I'll go back to the model. Think about each one of these little, engraved feather looking things on the wing. I'm making a choice before I put a paint stroke. How much of the purple, orange, and green that's on that little bitty area do I want to show through? And in some cases, I'm saying none, and I paint it all yellow. With a thinner yellow, so some of it's going to bleed through because of the glaze aspect of what I'm doing. But that's the way I paint. And having those options is what makes it so much fun. Having purple, orange, and green on each of these is much better than just having a dark version of this same color I'm painting. Because then I don't have much choice. It's either do I leave a little bit of darkness or not. Here I'm like, oh, but that orange right there could really look cool if as it goes under his chin, it makes it feel like the shadow on his gorget is orange. So maybe I leave more of that orange showing right there because that reflects his beard and skin better. And then I just kind of work that into the scope of what I'm doing, so to speak.
Welcome in, everybody, for just tuning in.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And it is Monday. Just doing some non-metallic gold right now. We finished up the black armor last week on Friday in that VOD. And we started the shoulders. Now we're here. The rest is history.
Be a test on Friday.
Wouldn't
it be awesome if we could just we could issue a test?
I was just thinking
So you want to watch the stream more next week? Finish this test.
You have to have a test. We'll really dive into this education side of this. We're just going to become a school, chat. Monument school.
Like an AI drone shows up outside your bedroom window, right? Starts spying on you while you do your test.
Monument hobby school. There will be discussion boards. We have the best discussion board already. It's the Discord.
That's also true. That's giving it a good once over with this color. Now I can go back with less dilution and get this exact same color that we've been painting to do more lifting for me, to bring more brightness into the areas where I know I'm going to want my shine. So as this chest centerpiece comes up out of the shadow of his torso, bringing a little bit more color there. Obviously the top side of the emboss here.
You saying you jest, but if you sent me a Google Classroom link, I would 100% apply. Awkwardish, I would apply.
You don't even have to. We do it here every day.
This is it. Welcome to class, everybody.
Yeah, there you go.
Little did you know.
It's free and we don't yell if you're late.
Derpstick would orange brown and orange oxide be good for a rusty color over silver paint?
Sure. Yeah, I think you're seeing them here. It would do the same work that you see us normally do with yellow ochre and burnt orange. 100%. The green and the purple are having an effect on this right here with the shadow colors. So you'd lose that, but
Just recapping, Ave, arrived last. What are the colors? The colors are dark purple, dark yellow green, and orange brown, and orange oxide.
the screwiest color combo.
Orange oxide before the orange brown. I typed that in. I'm going to recopy and paste those colors right now in chat, everybody. That's the workup. Yep, absolutely. You're very welcome.
Loving this orange brown. Definitely the right choice for what we have going on here.
Booker, where's Baby J? Baby J is hard at work right now.
Right now he's over helping fulfillment.
Yeah, it's all hands on deck.
Baby J is transitioning into more of a sales role here at the company. But he will still be doing a lot of streaming.
Yep. He will be here Friday.
We've needed all hands on deck over in fulfillment, especially today, so he's over there learning some things he didn't know yesterday.
Apparently, no sushi hands on deck. Well, I'm think of it this way: we are the little ship that goes out ahead in front of the big ship that searches for the submarine mines. There's a name for that. The skiff that goes out ahead of the big ships. I'm forgetting the name of that ship name. We are that right now, me and Jason.
Yeah. I like that.
We are the ones searching for the mines and keeping the waves at bay, aka chat. Mr. Blue, this stream is terrible for my wallet. That's funny.
Always a new color you need?
Oh my gosh.
Is that why it's bad?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to.
Once you start thinking about these colors like this way, you start to realize that, oh, I don't have an application in my mind that for this color right now, but now that I've seen it happen,
Yeah.
I need the color now.
Yep.
Because now I'm understanding from a foundational level that, oh, there's a lot more I could do with these colors rather than just slap them on a model, right?
Yep.
The underpainting is definitely a big culprit for that I've realized in my painting journey too. It's a lot of like, oh, duh moments when you're like, okay, I don't know how burnt sienna and burnt orange is going to work for rusty metal, but once you put that metallic over it, then you're like, oh, okay, now I'm getting it. In this case, the orange brown here is covering up all this greens and purples, and it's making a lot of sense.
Well, and because it is, it's called orange brown, but the yellow family of browns are going to always give you a lot more flexibility in their opacity, right? Act a little bit like yellows, so they're not going to be truly opaque on the first brushstroke, and that's really helpful when doing stuff like non-metallic gold. I don't want them to cover 100% of my colors underneath. I want them to let some of these other dirty colors show through. The way we tie it all together is with the next stage, which will be the bright colors that start defining the shine and such. Those will start to drive the picture home, so to speak. We got to determine what we're doing next, because part of me is like, I think I could go to bright yellow ochre next and just call it a day.
And go from here to bright yellow ochre?
I think I could just go to bright yellow ochre after this. We may try that, and then after that, be able to just shoot to pale yellow.
Yeah, Lumberjack Tim, the flame on set bright pale yellow, really good.
Remember that edges, even in the darkest recesses, will grab a little light from the environment. So we don't have to worry about that. We can pull that whole edge down into the bottom, but not do a lot of surface color there. Just worry about the edge. That may be the only brightness that stays down there that survives as we continue to push this non-metallic work up.
What's the cloak color going to be? Isn't it like
it's a fur. It's a very tight fur, so I'm going to paint it like a golden lion fur. And that's going to cause us a little bit of thought process to kick in, because how do we make it look different than our non-metallics and his blonde hair?
Oh.
So I'll probably do it where it's a little more desaturated, maybe a little more brownish. We'll see how this gold turns out when we're done, and let that kind of direct us in our decision-making there.
Zombies ask, golden tiger fur maybe? Oh, maybe you just do it in straight up tiger colors.
Tiger stripes?
Just tiger stripe it.
Tony the Tiger. Anthony El Tigre.
That would be kind of cool. Don't put those kinds of thoughts into our mind, chat. How dare you? Sources saying, paint the fur with true metallic metal. Just so it's legally distinct.
Oh my god.
That would be funny.
You guys are just
everything on it is non-metallic metal except for the fur, which is
the
true
one thing
metallic.
That should never have been metallic at all is now done with metallic paints. We do it in like metallic with like a green transparent over the top just to piss people off. Trying to give me an aneurysm, chat.
Basing with frosted
I thought you people
flakes.
were my friends. I don't think that's true.
Zebra paint. Now we're just going to get a bunch of different animals. It's going to be zebra.
I'm liking this color too much.
Looking great. I'm trying to think of lion fur. I guess that is the consistency of lion fur, correct? On his cloak.
Yeah.
Is that lion fur technically? Does he wear lion fur?
I don't know. It could be like a great white lion, and we
Yeah,
could have
or
it
like
be like a
lion
grayish
mane.
white would be kind of cool. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna wait. Like, we talk about it
Wait.
all the time. I'm waiting until I see how I like this gold, how the warmth of the gold lasts, you know, where it makes me want to take the rest of the stuff. We still have to do some sort of coloring on the hilt of the sword, which I would assume would be gold as well. So I've got to make that all happen. And how are we going to do that? Is that going to be a different gold than the armor? Probably. You can imagine they might not use the same materials to make the weapon, the hilt of the weapon versus the armor on him. So if that's the case, then I got to change the color of gold a little bit.
Tech Elf is asking, would green transparent help with a patina effect?
Could very much, yeah. I would use probably something more like our emerald, or which acts more like a verdigris.
Green oxide too.
Green oxide.
That's a great color.
The gold doesn't do that, so I wouldn't use it here, but on things like, more coppery metals would definitely be a choice.
Mr. Blue, should I buy bright yellow ochre or golden brown?
Yes.
I was just about to say. Yellow ochre, for like bright yellow ochre and yellow ochre are some of my favorite colors. Golden brown, as of today, is something that I'm going to start using myself. Just as in like a slightly less punchy yellow ochre, but also golden brown has its own little fun properties. Golden brown.
I think I already have golden brown, right? Golden brown, bright yellow ochre.
Ooh, yeah, both of those are great.
Right. Golden brown's going to be a little bit darker, less yellow. The bright yellow ochre is going to take you to yellow. The bright yellow ochre is what we're going to be using next. Because I want to start shifting towards the reflective quality of my light. So I won't be using the golden brown I was using in his hair. So the golden brown is like the color that we've got going on in his beard and hair right now. That's dark golden brown and golden brown. Now we're going to go to bright gold, or the bright yellow ochre. And
bright yellow ochre.
Bright yellow ochre. No.
So to answer your question, Mr. Blue, yes.
I can't find my yellow ochre over here, so I don't know where it is. They stole it from me. You can see how bright this color is going to be compared to everything else. I'm going to make that jump to where now I'm starting to have to show my reflection. I can still control this by diluting it to where I've got, a more thinned version of it. And then pile it on where I need the brightness. I'm doing that every stage. It's just kind of the way I paint. The first time I'm touching the model with a particular color, I'm typically doing that with more dilution, so it's less intense. So I'm feeling out how that color is going to look. And then as I like it, as I get it where I want it, then I start diluting it less and getting more of the impact of the color.
So, Jason, thanks for how that you or what thought process.
Locking in my reflections is going to be the key. Finding the spots on each of these shapes where the light would be the most intense. So I've been feeling out each shape as I was painting the base coat colors, even from the purple. And now I'm like, okay, so like right here on this eyebrow, right, this upper edge is going to be bright, coming into this kind of cylindrical shine right here along the brow. And then catch the bottom line again a little bit and this lower edge, right? Because it has this leaf shape to it almost. It's convex, or I'm sorry, concave. Right. Well, that'll define that one shape, and then I have to look at the shape next to it and say, okay, well, this one has a cylinder shape the other direction, so its shine will kind of go left to right instead of top to bottom. This is what Tim was asking about earlier. But I have to keep it in line with the same area that that brightness was at. Just kind of paint it across there. And then catch that edge as it goes down.
Jack Tim is asking, would there be more midtones in that? Those areas?
Might be, yeah. I'll do all the edging first, and then I'll go and backfill. I'm just trying to catch edges and bright spots right now. Complex shapes will have more shine on them than that, so I'll have to blend back into like midtones and such as I go. But right now, I'm just looking to catch the edge that I know will be shiny. And then once I have that edge defined, like right here on this nose and cheek area, right, then I know that on this spot on the nose, I've got a shine that'll come across right here. And then that'll carry on down here. Right. And then that same shine will carry on to this area of the side of the nose. And on this part of the nose. And then over here on this one. Up here, you know, you can just kind of go around and sketch like where are my shine spots going to be based on this light direction I've created. And then you just sketch those in. And you can start to see it. This is where it's like, oh, now I can kind of get where we're going. This still isn't our brightest color, so it's not going to tell the whole story, but it's going to get us going. Some dings and dents in this stuff.
It's not your brightest color. Would because are you gonna work up another one after
Yeah, like
this?
bright pale yellow will be.
I was just about to say bright pale yellow would be cool, but you're starting to see the shape come through now. Now you're starting to see where the sun is, or the light. You're starting to really envision it.
Yeah. And this is that jump that most people are afraid to make. You have to go from a mid-tone or dark color into a much brighter color, something that isn't just one value stage brighter, something that's multiple stages brighter to really pull this off. Because what happens is that the reflected light on a shiny object blows out a lot of the color of that object. Go look at a car in the sun, right?
Yeah.
One of the things you'll notice is that most of it is the color of the light that it's reflecting rather than the color of the body of the car, right? Like a shiny black car, most of it when you're looking at it is not black. Most of it is the color of the light it's reflecting, like the sun. So it's this yellow-white reflection that's telling you how shiny the car is, and then the spots of black you see are telling you it's black, right? You could walk up to that car and look at it in the dark, and it could be purple, right? But the light and the way it's reflecting off of it has gotten rid of all that color because the eye is seeing all the contrast provided by the light. So the light washes out the colors from the point of impact, wrong word, but the point of incidence where the light hits the car and reflects back to your eye. Everything, depending on how shiny the surface is and how diffuse that light gets when it hits it, starts to eliminate color in a radial form outward from that where that light ray hit it, right? And so you lose color. So the car won't be blue and then a pinpoint of light. It'll be that pinpoint of bright white light. Then it'll start becoming diffuse as it goes over. And then blue will start happening as you get further away from your source of light. And so that's what we have to create here. And in order to do that, we have to have those dark colors run into our very bright colors, because the bright colors are getting rid of the ability to see all of the other color in between. That's why you don't have even blends from my bright color back down towards my dark one. Hopefully that make some sense to you, gang.
Yeah, that's great. Black Wolf resubbed 71 months.
Hey, yo, what's going on, man?
I like
Black
that.
Wolf is a local. Well, I think he's still a local. We don't see him anymore, but
What? Right. Black Wolf, thank you so much for that. Resub.
local Phoenician, military vet, good friend of the brand, been around for a long time.
Do you adjust the lighting direction based on the part of the model, i.e. do non-metallic differently on the left side versus the right side, says SwiftBear?
I mean, right now I'm not really care. I don't have a uniform lighting on this guy. I said what's going to look good on the arm, and I said a shine down the cylinder of the arm, so that's fine. You know, and over here I've got more of a light hitting him here. So I'll go back at the end and kind of adjust it if I need to make it look like all the pieces belong on the same model. But right now I'm just having fun with the shape. So like, yes, I guess the answer is yes. Like this shape looks better the way I'm painting it now than if all my light was over here.
Yeah,
Right? Because then this would all be in the dark and you'd lose a lot of what the model's vision is. So when I have a model that's just fun to paint, sometimes I don't care about the reality of the light source. Sometimes I just want all the parts to look cool. So when I hand it to somebody, they're like, oh my God, that's rad.
And I mean, depending on like the reflections and how it's refracting too, I'm trying to imagine like where the sun is. It almost kind of works too with the shoulder, right? And these are so like so many dynamic shapes here. So the shine on it could be from a
well, yeah, and remember, none of that matters 100%. I mean, it does, right? It matters all the way, but it doesn't matter as much as when you're putting on your brightest color. Your brightest color dictates where all that is. Now, I'm setting that up right now by, leading all of my color into these bright areas, right? Like right here, I'll come across the top of this cheek, and the shine will be kind of right here, right? So I'm pinpointing where my brightest color is going to have to live. It's going to have to live at the edge of this brightness that I just put on there, right?
Yeah.
So that's dictating where my color would be or where my light source would be, but I can always adjust.
Mo's asking, wouldn't the shine marks on the black armor also reflect in the same spot of the gold, like on the left shoulder, for example?
Also reflect in the same spot? How do you mean? When the shine marks on the black armor also reflect in the same spot of the gold, like on the left shoulder, for example? What do you mean? Would the black armor reflect into the gold? Is that what you're asking? The answer is yes. And the gold will reflect back into the back armor. I just do that at the end.
Yeah, and it's all back and forth. The whole thing is going to reflect on itself, hypothetically.
Like right now, we have this black as being a really dull, beaten black. Like it's not super shiny. And the reason I did that is so I could do whatever I want to with the gold. Assuming my light comes from his left shoulder, like where he's looking, we'll adjust his skin that way. We'd adjust all of this. Right now, I don't care, right? I'm just going for a rule of cool. But you can adjust it as you go. If the light decides to come from over here, I probably have to brighten up the knuckles of the armor on the black hand if I decide to do that. Because right now, they're not as bright, but they do kind of play in that same light range. All of my light that's hitting this arm is coming from his left shoulder because our brighter edge is right on the edge, and then it tapers off as it goes away. And I've kept that static. I didn't put a lot of brightness here, so I can't over brighten this shoulder, which is why I've thrown this shoulder into darkness on the gold very quickly too, right? Because my plan is that it'll be more like this area is where I'm thinking we'll have light. And we'll play with it as we build it up. Let the model kind of become what it wants to be rather than forcing it early on.
The two shine lines on the left shoulder pad should continue into the gold, right? Oh, no, sorry, right shoulder, my left.
These? Yes, these would be shine that would also be in the gold. Is that what you're talking about?
I think that's what you're meaning, right, Mo?
Yeah. Yeah, the bright spots will be here and here. They'll have to match that because I've defined that already.
Right.
I have this cylinder line coming across here, so right in here will be a brightness. Right?
Right. Yep. Uh-huh.
This alters. The bright line is down here, and then it raises up here on the shoulder because the shoulder's closer to us. There's a big depth change there.
Yeah.
So the geometry of how the light hits, the light would hit because this is higher, the light would hit it sooner, which means it's further forward. But yeah, those things you have to take into account. If you've built light onto an object and there's another object that would reflect light similarly right next to it, you need to carry that reflection angle into both pieces being very similar. You can't just choose to not have one lead to the other. The human brain, like I said earlier, whether you know the words to convey that correctly or not, it won't make sense to you. You'll look at it and be like, something feels off. I don't know how to tell you what feels off, but something feels off. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Because any functional human has the ability to recognize what looks familiar and unfamiliar. And that's what we're playing with a lot of times, is trying to drive it into the range of the familiar. Like I could start showing this to somebody and they would say, oh, that looks like metal. You know, once we get to a shiny spot, this arm on the armor, it's like, looks like black armor. And again, the question from earlier being that I prefer this style of painting because it lets me control that light angle and it never changes. These bright spots will always be exactly where I put them.
Also is asking Monument for the very fine lines Jason is doing right now. Is the paint especially thin? Is he using multiple very light passes to get the very fine lines?
Yeah. Well, I'm using the tip of the brush, and you'll see me kind of do very light touches to the model like that, you know, just to catch that edge. And then as I go, I might then do more pressure, like right here to brighten it up, and right here to brighten it up, and back this way to brighten that up, but let it taper off into the lighter presses that I did earlier, so it gives it that little bit of fade.
Yep.
Right, as it goes under the chin and back in towards the hand. So yeah, it's really just a variation of pressure on the brush. More pressure equals thicker lines, less pressure equals thinner lines, and varying that based on where I want to see more or less paint. I'll use a thin line moving into a very thick line, and then vice versa, back down into a thin line.
Lumberjack Tim is asking, depending on a daylight scenario, obviously still thinking of directional light, how would you highlight the backside of the non-metallic metal?
How do you highlight the backside? What do you mean?
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, Lumberjack, but I'm assuming that you're thinking of light, and then obviously from the light, there's going to be a very bright, shiny spot, and there's always going to be a dark side, right? I think he's asking.
Well, it depends. Remember that what we're talking about in the realm of reality is that there's an environment this model is in where the light will only hit, like, let's say the light's coming from this direction. It'll only hit this side of this line, but the light will go past and hit the stuff behind him and bounce back. So remember, there's always going to be some form of reflection on this bottom side over here. And you could choose to highlight the bottom edges over here instead of the top edges, right? That make it feel like in the dark side of the model, you know, I've got more of the reflective light is coming from the ground or the environment. But I'm always going to catch these edges even on the dark side, if that's what you're asking.
Well, and that also, you know, and then you're getting into a deeper question of, that is exactly what he was asking.
Right, because like that's going to give me the feel of metal still just by making that edge sharp and then putting that in contrast with that. Now you understand which side is the reflective side and which side's in shadow. But even the shadow is going to have those points, you know, catch whatever little light is there and reflect it. So you still need to pay attention to the backside, because those if it has sharp edges. If it's just a smooth surface, you might take like a mid-tone color and make a radial highlight or an extra highlight on it, like I did like on the back side of the cylinder of the arm there. See how that's much deeper color? Because that's like the reflection of the chest reflecting into the arm, not the direct light. Direct light is here, right? Secondary light reflection might be there or under here, you know, to where you can get different levels of brightness to your reflections to show that they're more in the distance or secondary, tertiary, things like that.
Well, and then even on a deeper note, depending on what the story is, something could be behind him. You never know. It could be another source of light or
Yeah, there's
another
rarely ever
something,
just
right?
one source of light in a
Yeah.
scene, right? There's one main source of light is typically how we think, like the sun, right?
Yep.
The sun is the major source of light in our lives. It's even the source of light that makes the moon a source of light, right?
Yeah.
The moon,
Yep.
and the reason why there's night light is because the moon is reflecting the sun's light back at us as a secondary light source, right? The sun's not hitting us directly, it's bouncing off the moon. And so that creates its own light source. So think about it in those terms. Water reflects water can be nearly as bright, if not brighter, than the main light in the scene, depending on how you're playing it out in your head. So, that's why I say every reflected surface in an environment has the opportunity to become a light source. So all of the metal I'm painting could catch a really bright reflection and bounce it right back onto the stuff next to it. So you have to take all that into account as you're going along.
Ugg is saying, Jason, you're the main source of light in my life.
Thank you.
Come on.
Thank you. I expected that answer from more people, but I'll take it. The rest of you should take up after Ugg there. That was the correct answer. Ugg, 3 gold stars.
Mo, if you're going for more realism, would the back be a smidge darker? But I think he just was answering that of just it kind of all depends, right? Who knows what's behind him? But
A smidge darker than what I have right now?
just like, I guess, yeah.
Remember, every time I add a brighter color, everything around it gets darker.
Right.
This is plenty dark for what we're doing. And then as I add brightness, I mean, you can already see, like, it looks like I bisected it. I got brighter color here and much darker color here. If I go back to over this with, like, white, then this looks like almost black.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yep.
So that's one of the hardest things to learn is that don't just go with a dark color because you want that side to be dark. Ask yourself, how bright is the other side going to be? Because a semi-bright color can look dark next to a very bright color like white. So you always have to be careful with that. And you can always go back and darken it up later.
Old asking, can I ask a question? Absolutely.
Most definitely.
Because you're painting something very similar to what I'm about to paint. It looks like a Lich King from WoW.
Awesome.
He is wearing
like Arthas or whatever his name was.
I think so. Which if I'm imagining this, he has very similar color armor. He's wearing pretty much the same armor but black. What color should I use for the highlights of very dark armor?
I mean, I was going for black metal on his arm, even though we've thrown some blue in it to give it some depth. But I just used, this is all Payne's gray and white blue. All of that black armor is these two colors, Payne's gray, white blue, and then a black wash over the top. So if you watch the VOD, and we'll have turn those into shorter videos over on the YouTube channel.
It's going to be a black armor
that
one
works
for
well.
sure.
You wouldn't even have to go to the pure white blue if you didn't want it to shine as bright. You could stop a level behind, like kind of that grayish blue that you see down in the arm. But yeah, that gives you the feel of dark armor. It'll start to look even more dark the more brightness I put on this gold. Because right now the shine on the black armor is the brightest thing on the model. Still. Because that white blue is brighter than anything I'm doing on the gold right now. But pretty soon it won't be. When I start going to the bright pale yellow, it'll overtake the white blue very quickly.
Yes, so we'll have a couple VODs up right now if you guys are just now tuning in. Last week we did the face and hair and the black armor, and we started a little bit on the gold shoulder platings and stuff. Now we're on to the gold. We'll have a face workup video coming out and a black armor one as well. Staying on the subject of painting black, does something similar apply to, say, black feathers on a raven?
Sure. Yeah, you start to realize, like, when we talk about painting reflective surfaces. So oily hair, feathers on a raven, black armor, black leather, all of those things paint similarly. The only difference is the texture that those surfaces offer. The black armor might be smooth, or it might have like little scritches and dings in it, like what I've done here. Whereas the feather will have lots of texture to it as you get the hairs of the feather to highlight individually, but they will all be the same or similar sheen, or have the opportunity to be, because the oils in a bird's feather that help it keep its shape and not frizz out are all natural and shiny. The plastics could be shiny. Leather could be shiny, like patent leather boots could look just like black steel, right? Or even shinier. So you have the opportunity to create whatever level of reflection to any material you're painting. I'm showing you how to work on reflected surfaces, things that bounce light back at you. We just talk about it in terms of metal because that's the most common thought, is that things that are shiny metal reflect, but glass reflects, silk reflects, tons of different things reflect in the same manner as metal. They would just have different textures because they might be cloth or hair or feathers or things like that. So yeah, once you start thinking in terms of how light plays against a surface, how much of that light gets soaked up by the surface versus how much gets reflected back. And now you know how to paint everything. Yeah. It's now paint the owl, right? Now finish the dang owl. Because that's really what it is. It's all about light, values, and reflective qualities of the different materials. Once you nail that, boom, off and running.
Voldemort Sucks was asking that question about the Lich King and saying, I'm mostly using airbrush, but for the details, should I go with brush instead?
I mean, you'd have a hard time doing details with an airbrush in certain circumstances. It depends on how big the model is and how good you are with an airbrush. There are some people that can do a whole thing like what I'm doing right now with an airbrush. So it is not impossible. I typically do base coats and initial highlights and layering with an airbrush, and then I move to brush.
Here is a question from Papa Chicken. Building on the Raven question, do you know how the feathers catch the iridescent look when the sun catches them just right? Getting ready to paint a Battletech mini with that aspect and kind of stuck on how to approach it. Was leaning towards airbrushing wild colors and then going over it with transparent black. Thoughts?
Yeah. Or just painting the colors, cool. And letting them show through with the transparent like you're talking about, or just going in and glazing in shadows and such into those areas could work. You have lots and lots of opportunity to make things look iridescent. I'm trying to think if I have anything here.
Yeah.
So
iridescent.
The armor here is done in a way that makes it feel a little iridescent because I've used faded green as the main color of the armor, but I use blues and jades to underpin that. So I have dark blue and jade working into faded green, so I get that blue, cool glow on the armor. It gives it a feeling of like an iridescent quality, right? And if I were painting black feathers, I might do the purple. Where is... Oh, here. How about this?
Oh.
How about the colors that I've done on Dante's wings?
Oh, that's a perfect... we were just talking about feathers. That's right? Great.
So we've got the feathers done with dark purple, and then we've got jade, and then we've got magenta, and then we've got warm yellow underneath this, and then it's white transparent over the top. Now these are white wings, but see how and they're just randomly sprayed on there with the airbrush, right? I say randomly. It's dark purple in the shadows, then jade all over, then some magenta in the midtones, and then yellow. And, then you do that. So now I have feathers that look like oil slick, right? They've got some magenta and some jade and some purple, right? Maybe there's some dark blue in there, some yellow, right? But the way you move the model around, those colors get to, look at how I move it. Oh, yeah, look at that. You catch all the deep shadows with the jades and the purples and the magentas. And then as you go into the light, it turns into a different color. So, yeah. So painting those vibrant colors and then covering them over with a transparent, like we've done here, we just use transparent white. Works great. We use then transparent yellow to bring some warmth into the top edges, like the sun was shining on him, but
That's a great model.
So that's one way to do it.
Michael Payne, whenever I watch these, I note the best way to paint is paint to have fun and don't paint to try to get a job done. I would agree.
Man, if I painted to get the job done, I'd be done a long time ago. I paint to have fun. When you have fun, you get the job done quicker, right? And better, my opinion. So
Yeah.
if you really try to find a way to make it fun for you, regardless if you're like commission painting or doing an army for yourself or a buddy or whatever, keep it fun. Like, I'm a big fan of painting being fun. I hope you guys can tell that, right? I like to just try new stuff. I've been doing this for a long time, so I have less fear. I know that I'm not going to ruin a model no matter what I do, right? And that, I think, is something everybody needs to learn, that regardless of how much that model costs, it's not going to ruin it if you make a mistake.
That is a good way to put it. Once you get over the fact that, hey, the model is going to be all about the process, then you can paint anything.
Yeah.
Wad. Fuse must never have fun painting given how few models he finishes.
This is also true.
Call
You
him
bastages.
out. Call him out. That was a trick
Bastages.
question.
I'm in this photo and I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know why I don't finish models, chat? Because I'm too busy bringing up new ones to teach you guys new stuff.
That's right.
Can't ever finish the
That's
last
true.
one.
That's very true.
I blame chat. Forcing me to go try new stuff on new fun models. All for you, chat. I do it all for you.
This is a great model too, and I think somebody was asking, they were going to do this. This is an older question that I might have I've missed. I think it was from Righteous Falcon. Thinking about painting a bust. I'm thinking about painting a bust for the Capital palette. Is there a default size like 54 millimeter? What size is this bust technically?
This guy's probably somewhere in that 50 to 60 millimeter tall range. Of course, he's supposed to be slanted, and then width-wise, he's probably 95 or 105 millimeters. I don't know. He's pretty wide, just because of the bulk of the shoulders of Space Marines, Spez Marines. So Tim, now, like you asked earlier, now I'm glazing a little bit of this color into the orange that sits right next to it, and that's giving me a mid-tone shine. In those areas where I have a lot of brightness, now I'll glaze the bright color over the dark color next to it, and that'll help fade it out just a little bit and give me a mid-tone. So like right here on this cheek where I've got that bright shine, just glaze a little bit. So if you're not familiar with what a glaze is, just a thinner version of the same paint, that's semi-opaque, that will hide some of the color underneath it, and I'll let that be the part that kind of blends that brightness outward, like so.
A lot of good B-roll shots in this one, chat.
So you can see now we've got metal shoulder plate starting to take effect.
Yep. Ooh.
Right. And this is all just looking, like I said earlier, looking at each one of these and saying, okay, if my light is right here, how does it affect each one of these different spots? I have all these fins coming out here, so they're going to be bright on the side that faces the light. Well, even these, as they go back, have some facing that light, so I've got to keep that going, right? And then start removing it as I go around the other side. They're like fan blades, the hair on the head there, right? I probably need a little brightness on this cheek because it puffs out above all this, so it would get a little bit of shine. It wouldn't be that dark.
Mo, don't blame us. You're the one with ADHD, and then Black Wolf's like, I blame you, ADHD. Oh, shiny.
Yeah, see? Chat's fault. Everything's chat's fault.
This is a very cool model to show a lot of good examples.
Yeah, that's why I chose it. I thought, it's a cool model that's been sitting around here. It was in a box. I had no idea when I was going to get to it, but I was like, I know that I bought this for a reason. And then when we redid the stream, I was like, this is the perfect time to bust this out.
Got a lot of textures, metal.
It's got a lot of really neat textures on it, a lot of ability to do exactly what we're doing, which is kind of show people the way to bring these things to life at a larger scale, right?
Yep.
So there you go. So I've started shining up that one. I don't want to shine that puffed out cheek up a whole heck of a lot, but I do want to have a little bit of shine over on this side too.
Yeah, a lot of good textures. Black Wolf, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen Jason finish a model.
Oh, you bastard. Thought we was friends. I just showed you one, that Dante.
That Dante came out great. Papa
Don't ask
Chicken
about the base.
was saying he loved that.
Don't ask about the base.
The base? What happened? Oh, we don't ask.
Don't ask about the base. Define done.
Oh, it's done in the eye of the beholder. Did I say that right, chat? I think I did. Lumberjack Tim, I have to thank you because I no longer think in terms of color when asking questions. I now think in terms of how light hits and reacts with different surfaces.
Yes. Because that's the only
100%.
reason color can exist is because of the light hitting that surface. So if you don't
100%.
have the light figured out, how are you going to know how to paint the color right? Just as easy as that, chat. I'm going to need a little bit of shine right here on this tooth.
Voldemort Sucks is asking, is it true that you're using the same water for over weeks? Yes.
Yeah. Have you heard this on the internet?
Yeah, this is a rumor. That
is this the way the rumor goes nowadays? Is there people talking about me? Are people talking about me? Yes.
Pond sludge.
It's not quite pond sludge because
Not
Chris
your
got me a
cup.
new cup.
I did clean your cup.
In our Christmas stream, we gave away my old cup. So this is a brand new cup. So it's not even super dirty. But yeah, you can't see through that. And I would not drink that for $1 million. Well, maybe for $1 million.
For $1 million?
I would gulp that down for $1 million.
Oh, yeah. Give me, yeah.
I would super poop for a week.
Let's go.
But
$1 million, I'm drinking that.
It'll be all right. We'll live, chat. Might be touch and go.
$1 million non-tax. Absolutely. Down the hatch.
Might be touch and go for a minute or two, but I'll pull out.
Now, your airbrush little Tupperware dealio, Bobber?
Oh, no.
That one,
no.
maybe
that
$2 million.
That one's got like something living in it.
That
like,
one
there's a
would
creature
be
in
like
the bottom of that one.
500,000 of that would just be going to keep you alive.
Yeah. We're not trying to have that $1 million go to pay the doctors.
I'm Jack Tip. My cat drinks my paint water, so I have to change it every session. Yes. We
This depends on how much you like your cat.
We put Jason's little airbrush Tupperware in like a hazmat suit every night. Dress it up.
It's pretty bad.
Well, now you can't get rid of it though. It's the opposite problem. Now you're just like, well, how much more can we add to the buildup?
It's so gross. It's literally so gross. So bad.
But you can't get rid of it. It's a work of art at this point. Cats be doing that, trying to get that after that paint water. Maybe that's it, Mr. Blue saying. That's how his blends are so good. His water is every color. That's true. Maybe that's the trick, chat. Maybe you just never change your water and it's just maybe the water is iridescent.
This is the thing we weren't supposed to say out loud, Chris.
Oh.
Remember when I told you you're not supposed to give away the ancient Chinese secret.
I've sold the secret.
And there it is. Now it's spoiled.
That's it,
Spoiled.
chat.
The whole world knows.
What's
Done.
the key? Never change your water.
It has to be Arizona tap water too. I couldn't paint for crap before I moved to Arizona. And then their horrible water made me the pro that I am today.
There's some copper. There's some actual metallics in there.
There's
probably.
real metallics. You want to paint true
metallics.
metallic? Use Arizona tap water.
There's real metallics in it.
We are filled with heavy metals.
People
we
are like,
got you covered.
I just can't follow this tutorial right. It's like, well,
it never
no
works
water.
for me.
It never worked for me.
We could bottle and start selling Arizona water. Of course, I think that probably goes against a lot of
something
FDA regulations,
Something.
but
non-potable.
I've talked about it a lot. The if you keep your water cup with the project you're doing, right? So like in a perfect world, I would use this. This would have been fresh water when I started this, and then I would go clean it out at the end of this project and start with fresh water for the next project. As you rinse your brush with all the colors you use on a project, having that water be that gray, muddy color is actually good, because now you have a little bit of that dirty color, which is the call it the parent color of your project, because it has every color in it for that project, is not a bad thing, right? It is ludicrous as it sounds. It does help with blending.
Really?
Yeah, because all of your colors now are going to have a little bit of that mud that will desaturate them in there. Now, it's arguable at best if it has a major impact, your water would have to be really dense with pigment, and
Yeah, really.
and you'd have to be
That's
putting
funny.
a lot of that water into your paint for it to have a big idea. But I love the concept that it does have, it does make an impression in your painting because it includes all of those colors.
That is clipped and recorded.
That'll be the one that gets me censored because everybody would be like, "That's a lie. You can't prove that," which I can't. So,
Derp stick. What'd you glaze for the purple on the cheeks? It was royal purple, red oxide.
But it wasn't a glaze.
Nope, not the glaze yet. So the undertones were.
It was underpainted with an opaque layer of purple.
Yep.
We glazed the skin over the purple.
Yep, and that was advanced flesh tone.
That video will be coming out tonight, as a matter of fact, on our YouTube channel. That Chris has done a fantastic job clipping out of the stream, the tutorial, in a way that is just great. I hope you guys like it as much as we do, because it's spectacular. Chris has really killed it.
If I'm learning something, hopefully you guys are learning something on the other end. So we're really excited to show it to you. So that'll be live this evening.
Yeah, because we got the paint to where it is in an hour. Or on the skin, and it still has a ways to go to brighten it up based on what happens with the gold and everything, but you'll have a hard time painting skin of that quality any quicker with another method. Underpainting, if you can grasp it and get good at glazing the overtone, then you can do some amazing things very, very quickly at very high quality to get you going. Right now I'm glazing with the bright yellow ochre to start bringing that gold color up towards the highlight spot at the top of the shoulder plate here.
Mo's asking, what if your water has brush goop in it?
I mean, even better? Question mark?
All right, Jason, it's
Sometimes you don't ask those
3:56.
questions. What?
It's 3:56.
I'm not ready to quit, Chris.
Give me a recap of what we've done today.
Amazing things, Christopher. Amazing things.
Well, you started with the orange brown.
Yeah, we went over we filled out all the rest of the project where the gold would be with the purple, the dark purple, and the orange brown, or the orange oxide. Then we went over the top of all of the gold with the orange brown. And now over the top of that, we're going with bright yellow ochre to define the spots where the highest reflections are and getting all of our volumes built back in here. And then tomorrow, we'll start jumping to our real bright colors, which will be bright pale yellow. Bright pale yellow will look like a comet of pure sunlight hitting this model, even though we're already getting fairly bright with this color.
Mo was saying that was a serious question, by the way. The goop, the goop in the water.
I mean,
sure. It is a conditioner, essentially, right? So
yeah, I don't think that's going to help you a lot. To be honest, I would probably clean my water if I had been using it to put a lot of brush goop in.
Law Dog, I would like to say I do really appreciate the attention to detail to the long form content on YouTube. My attention span is too long to ever watch any shorts. Yeah, we go back and forth with that, right? Like a short is really good for some quick idea sparking, right? Especially like with our methodologies. You see 3 colors, then you can imagine on yours. A lot of content out there that which we try to avoid sometimes is that you don't see the process. Like shorts are too short sometimes, right? Where you like, how the heck did that, X get to, Z?
Yeah,
right?
There's spots missing.
There's spots missing. And so it's a fine line because obviously we have the VOD here. You can go back to last week and see the entirety of this model painted from start to finish. There's no behind the scenes like, oh, I painted this. You can literally watch it live. Now, the question is, where is the fine balance of taking clips from that are not too short, but they're not too long, right? So I think we've got a really good formula coming for you guys.
I think that one's what? Is it
It's
20
about
minutes?
It's about 21 minutes long.
In 21 minutes, which is less than a third of the time it took us to actually paint that face, you'll be able to watch a 20-minute video and get a really, really good feel for how to do the underpainting to get that flush. And look at how dark his face just got by putting that bright gold up there next to it. Right?
Yeah.
So we know we're going to have to go back in and brighten the skin, because by the time we do the gold around the gorget and the other shoulder, his face is going to get super dark. Because we haven't even gone with the brightest color here, right? Because the brightest color that we'll hit this with is the bright pale yellow, which is, damn near white when you look at that.
Power packed.
Any last minute questions before we send you off to the rest of your evening? We're going to get a good green gray with the new Adepticon set. I can show you those colors to finish off the stream.
What?
Have they been good enough, Chris?
I think so.
Do they deserve it?
They deserve it. They
I
deserve it.
I don't know about that.
Deserve it.
There's a greenish
Oh.
gray.
What? Here we go.
There's a
Big moment for
bluish
chat.
gray version of that, kind of like a darker white blue.
These grays are great.
There's an orangish yellow, which is really bitchin'.
Whoa.
There's another kind of a brighter caramel brown.
A brighter
Whoa! A neat reddish orange. A really, really good deep blue.
Ooh.
It's a more true blue version of dark blue, where dark blue lends a little purple, right?
Yeah.
A really good rich deep red. Another really good rich deep red, which is like our crimson that is gloss. This is a matte version of that.
Ooh,
A lot of people have asked for it.
Ooh, a matte version of
Matte
the
version
crimson?
of the crimson. Yeah.
Nice.
Got another really, really good. I don't know what I would call this. Kind of a grayish yellow, believe it or not.
A grayish yellow.
Number
yeah.
14, which is the flesh tone you've seen me be painting along with here. A nice kind of mid-tone bluish gray. People have been asking for like a cool gray. We have warm gray, neutral gray, kind of a cool gray, mid-tone. A good concrete style color. Right. A really nice dark greenish blue that leans a little more green than, say, the dark sea bin. No, these are great. You have a dark and a light version, which are really concrete colors, is what they're meant for.
Oh my goodness.
Right, a darker bluish gray that kind of goes with this one.
Oh, all of these are great. Everybody's oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah, a lot of really, really good desaturated colors. A really good dark blue that is
These are really nice. Like
very good pale flesh.
wow.
Like a peachy pale flesh. I got that. I got this. I got this.
Cannibal. All these
got
colors make my heart
this.
sing. Oh yeah. These are all great.
I got a mid-tone silver. Everybody's been wanting a color in between dark silver and silver. So
mid-tone
ta-da.
silver.
So there you go. Ta-da, bolt gun or
What?
something like that. And then, as if that wasn't enough.
Oh my goodness.
How about 4 washes?
Oh.
I've got a really good brown gray wash for the concrete type stuff. We've got a magenta. This is our dark magenta, but in a wash.
The dark magenta one.
It's insane.
Yeah.
A sepia, which is fantastic. It's like a green brown wash. It's fantastic with a little bit of yellow. It's fantastic. And then Payne's gray wash. So 4 new wash colors to go with the current 3 we've got, but 4 new washes that are spectacular. There you go, 24 colors. Ta-da!
Wow.
24 amazing colors coming out at Adepticon in 2 12-color sets. So there you go.
Wow, that dark magenta wash. I think you tested that a while ago.
I
on
used a lot of it on
the Trench Crusade guy.
The Trench Pilgrims
and you guys, that
I was doing. It was on this guy, right?
Yep.
So I used the Payne's Gray and the Magenta wash to get the musculature to look really irritated and such, and then put my shadows back on with a wash. We painted him up real quick, so that was a lot of fun. They work spectacularly. Just great washes.
Malev,
Again, when you have those
welcome
colors
in.
of wash that are purpose-built for shading and tinting things to have that irritated skin tone, then you start using them in that way, and it's like, oh my god, they're just so good.
That dark crimson, but matte.
Yeah, but
that is going to be great. I use the dark crimson all
Slightly
the time.
different tone. It's not quite as dark. It's a little more punchy in the reds, but it's a great color. So that should finalize the reds. I don't think we need anything else in the red world at that point. There you go. Good stuff. Little treat to end the Monday.
Wow. What a treat.
They are not expansion set 5. No, we have not announced what they are.
Oh.
So you don't know what they even are. Furby says, can I have all of these? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Do we have a Malev in the house? Malev, what's going on? He says, well, hot dog. You said, it's hot diggity dog, Malev. We need you to get with the program. Law Dog says, please, it'd be easier if you garnished your wages at this point.
Yeah.
And people have asked us to garnish their wages for a long time, but the government has a problem with that, so we have not started that program. The forward-thinking subscription, you just subscribe on a monthly basis and you get new stuff whenever we decide we make it. It also doesn't feel right to us. We prefer you get the stuff you like when we make it. That's the only time we'll take your money.
How many new colors in total again? One more time.
24.
24.
2 12-color sets.
Okran's asking, quick question about the challenge. Texture meaning making sculpture texture pop or creating new texture or not sculpted?
The intention is for you to use deliberate brush strokes to bring texture onto the model in ways that the sculpt does not provide. So, if the sculpt had hair sculpted on it, could you also use brushstroke texture to make that hair look finer than the sculpt did? Yes. So you can still use sculpted texture, but also make sure that your brushstroke is helping to redefine or define better what was sculpted. That's the goal. I want you to use your brush as a tool that creates visual impact on the model in ways other than just applying color, right? Using the texture to make thin lines and hash marks and stippling and all of the big brush strokes and smooth blends. All of that is almost more important than the color you use to bring about the story you're trying to tell on the model. So the better you can get at using your brush as a tool, like a sculpting tool that makes the surface look different every time you touch the surface, other than just by applying color, makes you a tremendously better artist and helps you have a lot more fun with your model. Because the way to guarantee your model looks totally different from everybody else that's painted that exact same model is to do some really cool texturing on it. Right? Zazan asks, will the new colors complete the line, or are there more you want to add? There will still be an expansion set 5 for the main Procro line. These are not part of the main Procro line, believe it or not. They're all new colors, not part of the main Procro line. That's all I can say right now. I'm under strict governmental NDA. I'll get killed if I tell you anymore, so I can't tell you anymore. Thank you guys and gals for hanging out with us. If you're new around here, please hit that follow button. Remember, we are Monument Hobbies. We manufacture the wonderful paint called Procro. We'd love for you to give us a try, but we'd really love for you to just paint more. So paint more models. Try new things. Get more adventurous. Have more fun. That's what we're here for. But thanks for joining. When is Adepticon again? End of March. That last weekend in March in wonderful Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
No, these are not satin. These are all matte finish paints, Cannibalistic. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. We stream Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here from Phoenix, Arizona at our HQ. We'd love to see you back. We also have the links that Chris put up in chat. One of them leads you to our store where you can find all our amazing products. Another one leads you to all of the local gaming stores through our store locators. You can help find a store close to you that sells our products. Give them a try. Go support the local stores that support the hobby by putting in all the really hard work and meet new friends. Thank you so much. And then the Discord, where you can find an amazing group of amazing people to get inspired by, share stories, and all of that. Did we lose me as a visual?
I think so.
What'd you do?
I did nothing.
Christopher blew the screen up.
Sorry.
Christopher blew the screen up, but I'm still here.
We're
so go
still
check out
here.
all the links. Stick around for the raid. Show some love in the chat we wind up in, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow. Adios, gang.